Hoovie owed me a bunch of money on bills unpaid in the shop, so I seized his car and took it from him. Let's take a look at this VW Touareg. Let's get started. You guys have seen this on Hoovie's garage. He purchased this VW Touareg, and all through the video I'm going to call it a weird different name on purpose. It's a Touareg, a Touareg, I don't know. Anyways, he didn't keep it very long because I took it from him. We've got the Hellcat, we've got the V10 Lancer, we've got his Imperial. He's got tons and tons of cars we've worked on, thousands and thousands of dollars, and it was just stacking up, stacking up, stacking up, and I hadn't been paid. And finally I said, hey, I'll take your car, we'll kill the bills. No, I'm just joking, guys. I didn't have to do that to him. I really, really liked this car when he brought it in for work. It needs a lot of little things, and we're going to show you today. It's one of the worst vehicles in human history to work on. It is absolutely terrible. And that's why I love it. You guys say in the comments all the time, Car Wizard's telling us not to buy these vehicles and he goes out and buys them. Yeah, because I can fix them myself and I don't have to pay anyone to do it. And I know how. And I have my own shop with employees working for me. I can hand them the keys and say, fix my car. And they happily do it because it gets paid the same anyway. Now, I would not recommend you guys to go buy one of these V10 TDI Touaregs. This thing, that's right, it has a 5-liter twin turbo V10 turbo diesel. It's a diesel. And as I'm sitting here talking to you, it's leaking oil on the ground. I got this from Hoovie to settle some debt. We happily did a trade. Rather than having to shell out the cash, he just shelled out this car. I took the keys, title, and we settled his bill that way. Everything's happy. But already, I'm having to come out of pocket for this thing. There's so much little things broken on it. There's nothing major, but it's really strange engine setup we're going to show you today. Let's take a look around this Touareg. So underneath the car, you can already see it's dripping oil. I could smell it when I drove up and parked this thing. It's burning oil pretty strongly. It's actually smoking underneath the car when it's hot. This is the front of the Touareg, and you can see the headlights are fairly clear, but one thing that failed right off the bat is I went to use my windshield washers, and it has headlight washers. And unbeknownst to me, this whole piece right here, this little cap and also the little sprayer, just shot off somewhere on the highway. I don't know where it is. It's gone. I have the correct parts to fix it, but that was the start of my woes. But yeah, pretty basic on the front end, nothing fancy, just a VW. It's got some pretty beefy all-terrain Centaura tires on it. Adventure AT is what they're called. I think I'll just leave them on there. It's great for bad weather, which we have some coming here in Kansas. And you can see it's currently dirty from the last time it was snowy and nasty here in Kansas.
Oh look, it's called a Touareg.
There it says Touareg. On the other side, V10 TDI. You don't see many of these with that annotation on the tailgate. And the engine has so much power, it's literally an LB7 Duramax as far as power is concerned. 310 horsepower, 550 torque. So she can tow. And down the side, it's actually very nice. It's not rusted or beat up or anything. Good tires. It's in good shape. But I've got my work cut out for me. Let's go ahead and look under the hood. You smell that, Mrs. Wizard?
Oh, yeah, this thing smells like a refinery. Oh.
It smells like burned oil. It's leaking out of the valve covers really bad, and we're going to show you that today. Let's take off this engine cover. There's our big, beefy, twin-turbo V10 diesel. Nicely, the oil filter's right here in the middle, easy to get to. PCV valves are easy to get to, crankcase vents. The valve covers are what's leaking, and you'll have to look underneath, or we will here look in a minute to show where it's leaking pretty bad at. It's pretty tight fit in here. You can't really see anything, but you can see a giant, it looks like a flywheel down there, but it's actually not a flywheel. It's the front main pulley. One interesting thing about this engine, there's actually a couple of interesting things. It has 0 belts. No power steering belt, No alternator belt, no water pump belt, no timing belt, no belts. There's not a single belt on this engine. Here's a picture here of what it looks like. You can see that big, what looks like a giant flex plate or a flywheel on the front of the engine. And so that's the back of the engine. Actually, it's the front. It's a big, beefy harmonic balancer. You don't see any belts there. There are none. Everything on this engine is gear drive. And we'll show you that here in a minute, but it's got some pretty bad leaks already. We have our headlight washer that's blown out. I'll show you one thing real quick in the rear hatch. So you go to open it and you go to reach in to get something and it's gonna
Eat you.
eat you.
Watch
There's
it.
little springs and also little, I guess you can call them shocks or whatever. Hood struts, trunk struts, they're deep inside there. You can actually, I'm touching one right here. I'll have to take down the headliner partially to get to them. As it stands, it will close the hatch on you and try to eat you, but not fast, luckily. Back to the engine bay. So this thing has a little over 160,000 miles on it. That's right, over 160,000. I know you guys say, Car Wizard, you tell us never to buy a European vehicle over 100,000 miles. And that still stands for you guys. The difference is, this is a diesel. They can go to 200,000-300,000 miles. The rest of the car may actually fall apart. It has air suspension, which can fail. But here, like I just mentioned in the beginning of the video, I own a shop, I can do all the work, I have my guys do it. You guys out there don't have that, you probably shouldn't venture and take these risks. It would be a bad idea. Let's get this engine cover back on and let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around the interior. For 2006, this thing is featured like a 2020. It has so many cool features.
Look at all those gauges. Wow. In case you need something there, some info, it's got to be there in one of those suckers. But you can see it does say 162,544 miles. As we move up, the dash is in pretty good shape. It's kind of a toffee, kind of taupe color maybe. And here we go. There is your one little flaw here. Nice little slit there in the dash. Not sure what happened, but there is kind of like a nice little, you know, strake mark. I don't know, maybe someone had trouble with a butcher knife. But as we move down, it does have some lovely wood trim that is in good condition. It's not broken. The varnish is all in good shape. But as we move to the center, and I'm going to cover the light up like I normally do for our gauge cluster because you cannot appreciate all of the red. There's red here. It is a red light district here in this car. And at night when the lights are out, oh my gosh, it's glowing red in here. It's kind of interesting. It has quad zone control for our HVAC system. It does have an interesting, I'll push map real quick. It does have a very interesting low resolution map there, reminiscent of maybe a first gen Game Boy, but nonetheless, it is there and does track where you're going, which is lovely. One thing that was above there is there's some lights that show up in that little thin bar up there that help with park assist, so you won't run into anything in the front of you. I guess we're not going to run into the cute little MG up there. But back to our center console, we see that we have a nice little tray there. And one of the problems that the Wizard had initially was that this would not actually open. It would get about this far and it would just stick. And it was because cigarette lighter that was in here that was blocking and was not allowing it to actually pop up. So we took out the cigarette lighter and put in just a USB adapter, and now that does close nicely. He likes to leave that open though, so he has a tray to put his cell phone in. But as we move back, our gear selector does say V10 on it. We can see it also has another 12-volt adapter right there, and we can choose how we want to adjust our mirrors. Next, we can see we have controls for our transfer case. We have some ESP, which we're doing some extra sensory perception. Oh, no, sorry, that's Wizard's other channel. No, this is for traction control. We can choose what we want our driving style to be like. Obviously, he likes comfort. He likes to ride around in a sofa if he can. We can lock the air suspension and adjust how tall we'd like it to be or short. Again, all of it's in good shape. All of it's working. Again, the wood behind all of this is in good shape. No breaks in that varnish. In our center section, we have two buttons here, and unfortunately one of the buttons are looking a little raw from being pressed a few times, but we push this side and just the top comes open, and we have the mega colossal, if it goes, there we go, So we can definitely put our big gulp drink in there, but wow, that's pretty impressive. And it tells us to push, so it is not automatic. So push it down, and there we go. But then we can also raise this section, and he's got stuff in there so he can listen to his radio and such like that with, you know, more than just, you know, the actual airband radio. Seats are camel leather and they are in nice shape, no rips, no tears. Same thing with the door card, looking good. He's got some WeatherTech-ish style mats down below because again, this is winter and well, we've had a couple snowstorms that they are keeping all that grime and gunk on them. Back seats are in good shape, again, more camel leather, and of course, like any mechanic, he has parts stored back there because, you know, why not? That's where they can go. So I imagine that one of those little boxes there is holding that little window washer for that headlight in the front. Headliner's in good shape, nothing crazy going on there. It does have a manual control for that moonroof cover. And we have lots of controls then for our garage doors, for our auxiliary lights and whatnot. One last look at the red light district of our 06 Touareg. So, well, a lot of red in here. So let's get this up in the air and see what's going on underneath and, you know, put all this red to sleep.
There are a lot of yachts out there that have twin, really large diesels in the hull for power, and they can be made by a company called MAN, which is Mercedes, and they're V10 MTU diesels. This thing sounds just like a yacht V10 diesel. Take a listen, guys. One way to really piss off a Volkswagen product that has air suspension is to lift it in the air without telling it you're putting it in jack mode. Once you go to lower it, it's going to have all kind of warning lights, it's going to go flat, it's going to be very angry with you. There's a button to do that on this, and Mrs. Wizard actually showed it to you guys during her interior review right here. Let's go ahead and push the button, it'll illuminate. We are ready to go.
So Wizard, your car's a lot like me. You can push my buttons too and piss me off at the same time.
Yep, I've been known to do that a time or two.
You have. Let's get this in the air.
Let's do. So you guys saw this on Hoovies Garage. We took a look underneath and found that it was leaking pretty bad from the valve cover gaskets. It's even worse now. It's leaking way worse than it was before. It actually is smoky and smelly when you turn it off. It's definitely time to get that taken care of. I'm going ahead and remove these shields and show you the bottom of this big ship engine. Whee! So it did swing out of the way. As you can see, it has clips that are supposed to do that. As it swings, it holds it there for you, doesn't let it fall. So let's see if we can get this one out of the way here. One thing that happens when you get older cars is people have been here before, they've taken things apart, they lost the bolts. And when they go to put it back together, they'll put 12 different bolts. They'll have a 10 millimeter, an 8 millimeter, a Phillips, a flat. It's kind of annoying. I don't know why they didn't just put correct bolts in, but that's kind of what we're fighting here. Look at all that oil, guys. Leaking pretty bad. I can definitely tell the driver's side is leaking the worst, really bad. But we're going to go ahead and do both sides, left and right, because you know the other one's going to leak soon. Let me show you the front of this engine. Guys, it's a huge, it looked like it would be a main pulley. It's actually like a harmonic balancer. There's no belts. None. No belts at all. You can see on this side over here, it's leaking from the valve cover way high up all the way down the engine block. And along the back side of the valve cover is also leaking. It's just coated everything on this side over here. It can be kind of dangerous because you have hot oil dripping, and right here are the catalytic converters. They get very hot. It can vaporize the oil to the point of flash point, and if there's any slight little spark or something, woof, on fire. It can be very dangerous. That's why it's definitely time to fix this. Let me get this out of the way here. Before we go towards the back, let's check out these wheels. The pads are like 50-60% remaining. The air suspension amazingly holds up well. It doesn't leak a single inch. It can sit for a whole week and it stays at an exact perfect level. Brakes are good over here. CV boots are good. Sway bar links are good. Everything actually looks pretty good over here. Here's our transmission. Everything is nice and dry there. It has some seepage coming from the valve covers we mentioned a minute ago. It does have a little bit right here too, those connectors. We'll probably do a transmission service, and while we're in there we'll take care of these little O-rings that are causing this leak. Here's our transfer case. No leaks there. This big giant flex joint. It looks good. Nothing going wrong there. Here's our drive shaft, which these have been known to fail. This has so much torque that when you get on it, the shafts can actually strip out. It can cause issues. Luckily, I haven't had any issues with that, but it can happen. Here's our fuel tank. It's a big saddle style tank. Big beefy ZF differential for all that power. Brakes are about 50-60% back here as well. CV boots are good. Sway bar links are good, nothing loose. Same thing on the brakes here. CV boots are good. Sway bar links are good, nothing loose there. Everything looks pretty good underneath except for the massive oil leak that I have. Let's get this thing on the ground. Just like with the Bentley Continental GTs with the W12, this has the same problems. Everything is engine out, engine out, engine out. Like I mentioned, it doesn't have any belts. Here's a picture here of the engine coming out. Once you get the engine out, you can start to see what I'm talking about. In this picture here, there's the gear train for the timing system. There's no timing chain, no timing belt, neither. It has timing gears, like a Cummins diesel. So that's really not going to fail. You're not going to have to worry about those. It is a pain to get to them. They're in the back of the engine, not in the front. If you have to work on them, you'll have to pull the engine, split the transmission away from the engine to get to everything back there. But off of those gears, they have other gears that run basically like a tractor has power takeoff, little shafts and things. They run the AC compressor, the water pump, the alternator. All those things are ran off of this gear train. Underneath the intake is where some of the components are located. Power steering pump, all of those things are ran off of shafts. No belts, none. It's really strange. So I've got my work cut out for me. If any of these things fail that require an engine out, I'll go ahead, we'll pull the engine out. We'll do all the things, all of them, because I don't want to pull it out again. But luckily, it's been a trooper. It has no check engine light, no ABS light, no warning lights. It runs super good. We just need to take care of this pesky oil leak, the rear hatch, this headlight washer issue, oil change, a few little small things, and be back on the road. I've been lucky so far. But yes, this is one of the worst vehicles you can buy as far as working on it. You will pull your hair out and you will go bankrupt. If you pay a shop to have to pull this motor and fix the things that are wrong with it, it will guaranteed cost more than the whole car is worth every time. As a mechanic, we can take care of that here for less than half the cost. But once Hoovie brought this, when he first bought it and he drove in with it, I fell in love. The sound of the engine, it sounds like a ship, like a diesel engine in a ship. I love that sound, and it is so fast. When you get on it, the whole thing arches backwards and it just goes. It's really weird that you're used to hearing RPMs 5, 6, 7 grand in a sports car, and then it changes gears as you watch the speed grow on the speedometer. It's deceiving. Just like you guys know I have diesel pickup trucks. It doesn't rev to 7 grand. It revs to 3, maybe 3,500, and then it's down to the next gear. But yet your speed is climbing really fast. It's really strange. But I love this car. It rides good, powerful heated seats, lots of power in the engine. It's a perfect winter car for me. So thanks again to Hoovie from Hoovie's Garage for working the deal with me. I got a car I've always dreamed of having, and he got his debt erased so he can get his cars fixed. So it's a win-win situation, although I might be on the losing end once I find out all the things that are wrong with this. If anything major happens to it, we'll do a video to show you guys all the work that has to go into to work on this engine. But until then, I'm just going to enjoy it and cruise in this thing. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this V10 TDI or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut. We really appreciate it if you purchase anything. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because we're going to keep the hits coming, guys. Tons more videos coming for you guys. Thanks for watching.